Welcome, folks, to World of Warships Legends, a free-to-play game, and this is your basic introduction for beginners. So hopefully this beginner guide will help you out when you first start out. It's going to have some very basic concepts about the game, and if you don't know what World of Warships is, you take other ships and you fight. Yeah, about as plain as it gets. Pretty self-explanatory on that front. We will start with the basics. You will start with a tier 1 ship, and you will lead on this tech tree where you will buy new ones. Within this tech tree, you'll go to each ship, and as you progress, you'll be able to put upgrades on that. There's plenty of guides out there on what upgrades to put on what ship. You just have to look up the ship, and then you'll be able to purchase. So, for example, we'll go to a ship I don't have yet fully upgraded, and you can see it. You get some upgrades to start with on some of them later on, and as you get higher in the tiers, there's more stuff to buy, and it does become more expensive. But you can see here these get quite a bit more expensive to use. So um, these are your tech tree type or ships. Also, one thing to note, guys, if you do have a number up next to your name, I'll try to remember to put my handy dandy arrow up there where that container is or crate is. That means you haven't finished your introduction or your tutorial that the game has, and I would recommend doing that. That is, I believe, 12 fights in AI or standard to actually complete that, and make sure you're paying attention to what it says because it does actually have some really good information on it. Now, there are four types of ships. As you can see, we are on the Americans. There are destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and aircraft carriers. And I'll give a quick rundown of what each is good at and how to play them. Now, that's very general because each line is generally pretty good at something. But as a rule of thumb, you can play them somewhat similar. In some lines, like as the American cruisers, have more than one line within the cruisers, all having different characteristics. For example, the top cruiser line of American has bigger guns than the lower line. Um, and that's one way you can always kind of figure out what ships you want to go for. I highly recommend trying all of them so that you understand how to fire at or what the other ship's weakness is. Now, before I show you what each type of ship is, you have to understand there is different game modes. Like any game, I highly recommend either training or AI at the very beginning, especially when you get a new ship so you can see what it is like before you go into standard. You want to feel comfortable before going into standard because it is a very chaotic. If you are an AI in training, you can actually kind of just, while the battles are a little bit easier, you can get a better feel for the ship that you are in. Now, when you load into your first match, you'll see you have a map with objectives, whether it is capture the other base, win on points. There's a lot of things you can do, destroy all the other team. There is a lot of ways to do it. Most of the times you will be 9v9 unless there is some random circumstances, mostly at lower levels with a console only thing. I wouldn't worry too much about that. It doesn't happen too much on PlayStation. But when you go ahead and start your first match, on the very right corner is you can either go full backward or you can see the stop, quarter, half, three quarters, or full forward. And you just hit the buttons to determine where they're at. That's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of ships in the game have two different types of ammo: HE, high explosive, or armor piercing. We'll get into that a little bit more on when to use what. And also for torpedoes, you can see where they shoot, And if you have a target, it will give you a line to tell you where it is. Now you can shoot these wide angle or narrow. I really recommend it narrow, and you can use your overview camera so that your guns don't turn. So if we look around and come back, our guns will still be here instead of our guns trying to look all about. And also, too, keep an eye on your map to see where teammates are. And in all general rules, you want to limit who you shoot at. Now, the top right corner of the, or limit how many people can shoot at it you at one time. We're going to send torpedoes down here real quick. Now, at the top right corner by the on the map, you can see I have a detection or an eyeball. It says 4.4 kilometers. That is whether people can see me and what my detection rate is. So if you see here, if I shoot my guns, it'll go orange and I'm spotted, and I have that spotted icon. So keep that in mind. If you're spotted by one person on the enemy team, the entirety of the whole team can actually see you. If you hide in smoke, that can help you, but be aware of your detection, because if they get close enough, you can check your detection. Even in smoke, you can be found. So keep that in mind. Now with destroyers, I'm trying not to be seen. These are the little triangle things at the top. You're trying not to get seen, and you're trying to take control of these caps, kill other teammates, or kill other enemies, including definitely 100% destroyers, other destroyers. And destroyers in this game, like what I'm playing right now, are arguably the most important class because they dictate the match a lot. And as you can see, we have that line that tells us where to shoot. So we're going to go ahead and shoot here. Oh, nope, our teammate's going to ram the other thing. That's a thing as well. When you're playing, you can ram other ships. If you hit an enemy, there will be a lot of damage done. If you hit a teammate, nothing will happen. Just like if you shoot a teammate, you can't actually shoot you can't hurt your own team. So on your top right hand of the screen, you'll be able to see damage and ribbons for things like defending, targets hit, how many times you started a ship on fire, and other things like that. Also, a lot of ships have consumables down at the bottom left. You will see, you can see your help as well there. And you can use your consumables. If you don't know what they are, you can check them on your ship's info page. And I will actually show you where that is. On the right hand of the screen, you can see the 5 different shells when they land. And that'll tell you what your shells are doing, whether they are shattering, bouncing off, or what I just did there. I got full penetrations, or, you know, they will be, or, going through overpenning and going right through the ship entirely. And there's a lot of good guides on that, so I don't want to get into too many details on that. So on your ship page, if you go here, there's combat loadouts, and you can see your consumables and what they do. A lot of times they will have a number next to them letting you know how many you have. And a lot of, or all ships have damage control parties, which for the most part is mostly used to put out fires and flooding. You always want to put out flooding if you can. With fires, you generally want to you only want to put out fires if you have more than one. The reason is there's a cooldown always on these, and you don't want to have somebody just start another fire right away again. Now, for cruisers, they are a little bit different than destroyers. Destroyers, like I said, you want to run kind of undetected for the most part, and a spot for your team while getting caps and capturing bases. With cruisers, you can do some of that same stuff. The biggest thing in a cruiser is you can put out a lot of damage in more than a lot of the other different classes of ships, but you're also squishy, and a lot of people will be able to see you for the most part, unless you're tucked in behind a mountain or something, which you can do. So cruisers have pretty good reloads and do a lot of damage, but they can also get hit hard. So you don't want to sail where you give the whole enemy team your ship. A lot of cruiser play and um, battleship play is based on how you're angled to the opponent. So we're not going to give them our entire broadside so they can hit our citadel, which cruisers and battleships have. And a lot of times, if you get hit there, you're not going to be in the match very long. As you can see, the main focus in a cruiser is if you see a destroyer, shoot a destroyer, just like that. One other thing I should mention is there is auto aim within the game, but you kind of do want to, as you play more, you'll understand how you want to kind of aim yourself, and you can lob a lot of islands as well. And just like destroyers in all other classes, I want to remind you that if you are spotted, you can be seen by the entire other enemy team. If you are not spotted, that means the other team does not know your current location. Now, with battleships, you're going to have the biggest guns, you're going to have the most health, but you're also going to be the biggest target. With that being said, it takes a much longer time to reload, and you want to be careful, again, who can shoot you. If there is a destroyer available to you, you try to take that if it's within probably about 10 kilometers, if you can actually make that shot, because it'll help your team out the most. Otherwise, you're trying to help out your team, essentially kind of like being a tank, but you don't want to take too much damage either. Now, with aircraft carriers, you can actually steer them like you normally would, but because a lot of times you're not going to be at the controls of the aircraft carrier, you're going to be using your two sets of planes. You can actually go to your map and pick a spot, and your aircraft carrier will go to it. And it does have autopilot, so there you go, and then you'll take off. And again, you are for these, these are obviously the most different class of ships, the ones I probably play the least. And they can be the toughest to play because you do a lot of things with them as well, and your capabilities on damage can be limited. But for the most part, you want to spot other enemies, do damage when you can, and a big help in in a carrier is if you can spot enemy destroyers and focus on them. Now with aircraft carriers, you're going to have two different sets of planes. You're going to have uh, a lot of times you're going to have a dive bomber of some sort and a torpedo bomber of some sort. Dive bombers are pretty self-explanatory. You just take and dive at the ship. Torpedo bombers are a little bit different because you want to lead your target to see where they are going to actually be to try to line up good torpedoes on them. You see, I led them a little too far there, but we did get a torpedo hit there. You definitely want to put your carrier in a place where it's not going to get hit. And just keep in mind with dive bombers, you have a limited time on the right-hand side there of how long you have to go ahead and drop your bombs and guess where the target's going to be before you actually don't get the opportunity to do it anymore. Now, on when to use HE versus AP. Now, this is not a simple answer. Every ship is different, every player is different. But as a general, if I'm shooting at little destroyers like myself, I try to use HE if I can. Outside of that, if somebody gives me a broadside, so if they are this way to me and they're not pointed like this and hard to shoot at, if they are broadside, I will use AP. Now, if the ship is bigger than you, you kind of want to aim for the top of the ship. You will get more damage. That way, as you can see here, is we did 2,000 damage there. Compared to if we were using HE, HE does less damage, but does cause fires. Now, if the ship is the same size as you, or you don't feel like you're going to go through the entire ship, you can shoot AP down there. at the water line to try to get their citadel. But as you can see here, you can use HE up on the superstructure as well. As you can see, we only did 800, but we did start a fire. So each circumstance is going to be a little bit different. But you can see even on a little destroyer, which the Isukazi is, the AP actually did more initial damage than HE. So if you're shooting at the right stuff, if you, for example, we'll switch over to AP here, and if your shells are too small for your target, like for example, shooting a battleship from a cruiser or a destroyer, you're going to see these shells will do almost absolutely nothing. You can see they all shattered there on the right hand side. So they did absolutely no damage. Our fire is the only thing doing the damage right now. Again, you want to shoot stuff you can damage, like superstructure up on top of the ship. As you can see, we did damage there as well. Now, like I said, this is just a starter's guide. The earlier you can get good, or a beginner's guide. The earlier you can get better with armor piercing, the better it's going to help you out because you're going to know what you can go through on a ship and what you can't, so that you're not shattering. So as you can see, the bow of the ship doesn't have as much armor, so I was able to shoot there. Most of the time, the armor belt is going to run along the ship, and this is going to be the thickest part of the armor because it's protecting the citadel. And if you do hit the citadel, you will do the most damage you can do if you're using AP. HE generally will not get to the citadel of a ship, normally. And just keep in mind, torpedoes work pretty darn well, too. A few extra things here to note really quick is on your ship's page, when you're looking at it, there is a few things you can do. Some consumables, you can pick different consumables that might help you more or less, depending on what you're looking for. Also, the specs page, which will tell you about your ship, whether it hit points, what type of guns it has, what its top speed is, and last but not least, your armor scheme. And this will help you learn how to protect your ship and what, and how big your certain weaknesses are. So you can see the bow and the stern don't have a lot of armor on it, and either does the superstructure on top of the ship. With that being said, this armor page is also super usable for finding your citadel. So you can see when we uncheck the other armor groups, that it shows us our citadel. This is where you're going to take the most damage if you get hit there, so you need to learn how to protect it. All ships will have a citadel except for destroyers. Now, for commanders, you can put commanders on ships to make them better. At the beginning, you will only have one commander for each country. You can get them through crates in your missions, which we'll talk about later. But you're always going to start out, every country is going to have one with a very generalized skill set. As you can see on the top right-hand corner of Ding Ru Chan, that is going to be your free one. You're going to have one for every one until you get more options down the road. They're going to have skills that help you out, and including legendary skills. They all take a different type of currency. For example, to get a legendary rank, you want personal accommodations or universal accommodations, which are blue. And then insignias, promotion orders, and commander XP. Now, until you know what you're doing, I would only rank these up to tier 6. But I would take all of them to tier 6 because tier 6 only requires commander XP. And you can get inspirations to, we'll go to another one. At 7, tier 7 and 11, you can use your first inspiration slot at tier 7 to pick another perk from another guy that will help you out on this commander. And same at 11, but it is your second one. But like I said, very early on, I would only take these to 6 until you really know more about what you're doing and what you want out of your commander. As you guys did see within the commanders, there is already a lot of different currency or items you need. A lot of them you get through matches or, for example, the gold doubloons at the top of the screen. We'll go through the top real quick. That is the currency that you have to buy essentially for the most part, and that is used for DLC content within the shop. Uh, Also, the silver doubloons up there, I'll try to remember to use my handy dandy arrow. That is for purchasing modules or upgrades for ships, or it is your kind of your free currency, and also you get that from just playing matches in general. You use it to buy other ships, etc. Your next one is your global XP, which can be used for a lot of things. It can be converted into the other XP types, including Commander or Ship XP. So you'll notice that when your matches, you'll get a white XP or a white star, that is Ship XP. Um, but you can boost it so that you don't have to, I guess, level the ship up. If you have a bunch of XP, you can, for example, uh, get it to the next tier. So if we wanted to, we could boost to this slot or even to the next ship in the line if we wanted to. And you can see here your silver doubloons, as we showed earlier, is for upgrades. So we'll install that upgrade to that ship there. One thing to note is if you are unsure about your currencies or your boosters or camos, don't use them until you know what you're doing. Just save them up. It ain't gonna hurt you any to save stuff up and use it when you know what you're doing. Your next one is steel, which is not a currency that can be bought. It is the only currency that I know of that actually can't be bought. That is year round, and you save that up for stuff within the forge over here, and you can spend that this way. That last one up there is that says days. That is how much premium time you have where you make more, earn more XP, money, etc. Now for the next tab, that's campaign. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. This is essentially a task of missions and stuff that you get rewards from every 35 days. If you pay real life money or your gold doubloons for the Admiralty backing, you will get more items. Generally, if you're going to spend money within the game, campaign is a very good way, effective way of doing it. I don't recommend people. I don't like telling people whether to do something or not, so you have to decide it for yourself. I wouldn't worry about this early on, though, until you know that you could complete the campaign. For your missions tabs, this is where all your missions are going to be, whether it's for the campaign or your trials. And when you're new, I would highly recommend focusing on your trials. You're going to see a lot more on this menu when you're new than what I currently see. And you're going to work on the missions. So, for example, I want to show you guys the icons because this is something that I was very confused about when I started. So the first group of icons is what type of game mode. So you can see if you go back to the play, you can see all these play types have a different icon. And your missions, in order to complete that mission, it has to be done within that game mode. So let's go to, for example, we'll go to these ones, the premium supplies, because everybody will have this. The blue anchor, obviously, if you now are aware, that is your standard, or that is your AI matches. You can do that in AI, or you can do this one in standard. Um, for example, this first mission here needs to be done at tier 2 to tier 3. This one, tier 4. That's what the Roman numerals means, is what tier it is. And the gold by it is what ship type. So, for example, this has to be a premium ship. In premium ships, actually, we'll go in and really quickly to look. If you have premium ships, they actually earn, you get them from the store or campaign or bureaus, these will actually make more money than the regular ships, the tech tree ships at their tier. So you get more money that way. Now, for your bureau, simply put, this is like a big research project. If you have premium, you can do two of them. This is just going to be a general little guide on this. I will do some more down the road that will help out with each one of these categories. But uh, for what we've talked about today, even including missions and stuff. So, but a quick rundown through is on each section of this. If you get, you're going to have requirements for type of commanders that will help boost up your research. Same with ships if you have them unlocked. And if you have the ships unlocked for it, you can also use them in a match and get a daily win with them. And that will help your research. And then by the end of it, you can get a legendary ship. Not all of these are legendary ships, but the reason I bring this up is because in the first, we'll go to Des Moines. In the first section of each one of these, a lot of them give you a commander that will help you out. So you don't have to wait as long for them. So I would do each bureau, the first stage of it, to get your free commanders. And that will help you out a long way. Now, there's other commanders that you can buy in the store, and the store has a ton of stuff you can look at. For example, here's a commander currently right now that you can use, and they have different perks. So, like I said, the store, I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I would hesitate to spend money till you know what you're spending on. As a general rule of thumb, people are going to probably buy a lot of crates. And that's like, you know, a slot machine. You might get lucky, you might not. So be hesitant when you're doing that. Anyway, hopefully this helps you out, guys. And hopefully I covered everything. If I didn't, make sure you check the pinned comment below just to be sure. Anyway, guys, I'm Soopa-Dave. Hopefully this helps you out. We'll see you next time, folks. Have a good one.